Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hard Work Heroes. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a truly inspiring individual, Daniel Crooks. Born in Toronto, Ontario, and raised in Southeast Mississauga, Daniel's journey is a testament to resilience and determination. Daniel grew up in a lower middle class household with a strong willed mother from Jamaica who instilled in him the values of hard work and perseverance. Despite facing the tragic losses of his younger brother and sister, Daniel's spirit remained unbroken. His father, a military man and entrepreneur, influenced Daniel's drive for success from an early age. Navigating a neighborhood filled with challenges, Daniel learned invaluable lessons from his surroundings and built a network of friends and mentors. His passion for food led him to work in various restaurants, but it was his entrepreneurial spirit that propelled him forward. Despite encountering legal troubles and financial hardships, Daniel never let setbacks define him. A pivotal moment in Daniel's life was the birth of his son, which inspired him to seek greater opportunities. He ventured into the door to door sales industry, where his dedication and continuous self improvement paid off. Building a successful sales team and establishing multiple locations, Daniel rose to the position of executive director. Today, Daniel is a thriving entrepreneur with an e commerce company specializing in fine and vintage vehicles. He has accumulated multiple passive income assets, married his partner Sandra in the Dominican Republic, and embraced a disciplined lifestyle focused on fitness and self improvement. Daniel's story is one of transformation and unwavering ambition. Please join me in welcoming the impeccable Daniel Crooks. Welcome, Daniel Crooks.
Yeah, yeah, you got to get one of those buttons, man. There we go. That was amazing. That was like
Thank
that.
you.
That would make anybody feel good. That
Of course.
introduction was amazing. Like, is it like that for everybody? Or was that just my introduction? Like, you know what I mean?
It's for you.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Really
No
good.
worries, man.
There's a few key points there that really caught. They all caught my ear, but there's a few key ones there that you hit the nail on the head. Passion for food. I think that could be anybody's passion if you think about it. Just some people are more off to speak about it. Like I love food, right? I love food.
Of
This is why
course.
the gym for me is became a passion, right? Because I number one, I just love to eat, and I didn't want that to catch up with me, so I had to get into the gym.
That makes sense. It's the same one for me. It's the same for me. I like to eat anything, but then in the morning, okay, kettlebells now.
Yeah, I had to workout. The last kettlebell workout I had, like real one, was with you.
Yeah, that was good.
And I've seen you. You're working out. You're grunting, and I'm like, man, I can't let this guy outsweat me. That was what was going through my mind. You know what I mean? So I had a great time there. You know what I mean? And
That was good.
yes, definitely. But the passion for food, I'll tell you, it came from my grandmother. Because
Yeah.
growing up in Mississauga, my mom was single mom, three boys, working. I got a lot of work ethic from both my parents, but my mom, she was always working. So there was a time when I was really young. I had to after school, instead of going to the after school program, they had after school programs back then. Peel after school program. For any of you guys that know or anybody that's watching, PLASP, they know what that is for sure. Peel after school program. Instead of going there, I had my own Peel after school program at my grandmother's house. She lived
Yeah.
down the street, right? And the smells, I remember the smells of my grandmother's house. She had a, modest house. And the kitchen wasn't a kitchen where you'd see in a normal house, right? It was a kitchen strictly for cooking. It wasn't a kitchen where people hung out in. The only people that hung out there was my grandmother. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember going home every day after school, and this will stick with me for the day I die. Going home after school, at the closer I'd walk home from school to my grandmother's house, it was probably about a 20-minute walk from my school, Havenwood Public School. And the closer I got to my grandmother's house, the smell would get stronger. It could be either curry goat, curry chicken, something curry, jerk something, rice and peas, something. And it was always a day for that particular meal. You understand? So every Tuesday would be something. Every Wednesday it would be something. Every Thursday it would be something. So the days, like say Tuesday, say for instance, I didn't want to eat that one day or whatever. I knew what was cooking just by the day and the closer I got to the house. Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd get home early and she cooked for everybody. She cooked for my cousins that would be there, my brothers, my aunt, uncle that was living there, and my grandfather. Right? So she would be cooking for
the family,
everybody, right? So there'd be pots on the stove, things going, you know what I mean? And she was like graceful in the kitchen. So I'd get to her house early, and I had the pleasure and to watch her work her magic in the kitchen. Right? When I mean magic, it's like magic, brother.
Yeah.
There was no measuring cups. There was none of that. Like she didn't own any of these measuring cups, no teaspoons, none of that. It was just, cooked to taste, and it tasted like it was amazing. And everybody says, my mother is the best. My grandmother has the best. Try me. My grandmother had the best cooking, hands down, in Jamaica, hands down, anything, right? Anywhere, right? So that's where I got my passion for cooking and passion for the food. Right? And I used to get in trouble because I used to wait for her. I'd watch her cook. I would leave the kitchen, right? While the food was still cooking. Right? And she would leave to go back upstairs to catch up on her soap operas.
Mm-hmm.
Soap operas would always be playing. I remember this. There'd be Y&R, there'd be Young and Restless, there'd be, I don't know, whatever they are. Right? And I knew because the floor creaked a little bit when she went upstairs. So as the floor would creak, I'd come back upstairs and open the pot and grab a spoon, just do my own tasting.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, man, this is where it all began. I was young at this time, but sometimes I get caught though. Right? So I got some creative ways. Oh, man.
How old were you?
Since I started walking home from school by myself, I'd probably say 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
8 or 9 years old. I'd walk home from school by myself.
I was imagining maybe 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah, probably about 8 or 9. 8 or 9 is probably what, grade 1, I think.
Okay.
I think so. Right. So that's when I got my first taste of the real jerk and the real stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Then the odd day we would have like some Fridays. I think it was one Friday of the month. My grandfather would come back with a bucket of KFC. That's like one Friday of the month. Yeah. That's when KFC was good, right? I don't know how it is now. I haven't eaten that in a minute. So.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too. I just, I don't know. It's not very attractive anymore for me. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's how my passion became from cooking, and and then I'd go home and I'd try some of these things myself, experiment with some of the things that I've witnessed my grandmother do. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I would try the curry chicken, the curry goat, and all that stuff myself. Give her a call. Hey, Grandma, what did I do here? What do I do there? She'd tell me too, right? So just getting the imagination going that way is something that I got really good at a young age, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I became good. And then, out of high school, one of my first jobs was in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was the only Black guy working in Chinatown in the kitchen, my guy. Yeah, man. But these guys, what's that?
How was that?
Oh man, it was great. It was great. They loved me. They loved me in there, right? You know,
Yes.
my Chinese accent isn't the best, but it was Danny, Danny, oh my God, love you. High five every day. You know what I mean? Because it was like I brought the life to the party and I was the only black guy there. You know what I mean? So they'd kind of like hide me in the back of the kitchen so nobody could see me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, because
So
I guess, yeah,
was was that kind of for the customers they used to do that?
yeah. It
Or
was mostly Asian
okay.
customers that came in there, right?
Yeah.
No, but in the end, it wasn't like that, right? Because
Mhm.
yeah, I learned a lot from these guys too as well from the Chinese. What was it called? Mongolian barbecue.
Yeah.
It was
Was
called,
it, is this the same one at Chinatown here in on Dundas?
yeah, on Dundas. It was on
Okay.
Dundas. Can't remember. It was Dundas and
I think Tompkin and Dundas.
Tompkin and Dundas. Yeah, and it was right there. This
Mhm.
was probably like 20 years ago now. 20 plus years. But I remember it was like yesterday, right? I learned a lot from there. And then from there on I wanted to actually get my red seal. I wanted to work on cruise line. That's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I wanted to go overseas to learn to get my red seal. It was I either wanted to go to Japan. I was either there or this was going on in my brain. This was the vision I had in my mind. It was imprinted. It was either Japan, Italy. Those are the two main places where I wanted to learn how to cook properly and build on my palate. They call it the palate. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Learn how to really control the palate, right? I wanted to do that, and so I left the Chinatown restaurant, and I had an opportunity to work at another place. It was called Moose Winooski's.
Never heard of that.
Wow,
Okay.
it's like a bar. It's like a bar, um, pub type thing, but it's a chain. It was a chain of restaurants. It's a
Okay.
Circorp. It was owned by Circorp. Circorp's a company that owns a chain of restaurants, so like Moose Winooski's, Jack Astor's. That's how it is.
Okay.
So they own a
Okay.
bunch of restaurants under the name of Circorp, which is actually pretty
Mhm.
interesting how they have it built because Circorp has they own the products that they sell to these
Chains,
to
restaurant
the kids.
chains.
So all those restaurants only use Circorp products.
Okay.
So if you go to a Jack Astor's, Moose Winooski's, or whatever else, all the food use the same products and they all have pretty much taste the same. You get me?
Okay.
Yeah. So great idea, great way to run a franchise, right? Yeah, the thing's froze there. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Sort
So
of, I was just about to say, sort of monopoly. They created their own monopoly, right?
yeah, yeah. So I stayed
Yeah.
at. I had that opportunity. A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine at the time, he was working at Moose Winooski's, and he's like, "Yo, man, you want a job there?" I was like, "Sure, no problem." At this time, I was probably about 16 or 17,
Okay.
17 years old. Moose Winooski's, I crushed it there. It was like my first like high action place. The Chinatown was high action,
Mhm.
but when I mean high action, this place was like on a Saturday night, you had to move. Like you're sweating, you had to wear the
Yes.
uniform, the apron. Your apron had to be clean all the time. You weren't hidden, so the customers can actually see you, and
Hmm.
everything was
Okay.
like exposed. So you had to be clean, but you had to work and you had to like move and you had to listen to the guy that was calling the board because they had these
Mm.
things called shit. I remember clearly. And I'm like,
Hmm.
man, I loved it. It was high action, it was fast moving, you know what I mean? And then you're working on a line of a team of people. There's a
Yes.
team, right? And I remember when I first came in, I got put on appetizers. They're making pizzas and all that stuff. So that's like the pretty much easy station, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after a week of working there, I'm like, man, I don't want to work this station. Like, it's way too easy. There's no challenge. Like, give me something else,
Okay.
right? And they were, no, you got to get good here. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So I got really good there, and then they moved me up to the grill, to the pans where you're making the pastas and all that, and everything's timed, right? You know,
Yeah.
everything was timed. Everything was like you had to. So what I mean by that is like appetizer had to go out. Once the appetizer went out, I'd have to go on like the entrees, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yes.
Entrees. So if there's 6 people sitting at a table, 2 people would order like pastas, and another 2 people would order something from the grill, and they might order maybe some appetizers too as well. So everything had to
Mm-hmm.
be timed and come out at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
It had to work in unison. There had to be connection with the whole team. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Everybody needs to be on the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
mindset, same wave,
And since,
right?
yeah, I get it, because when I cook food, I understand there has to be this. Okay, if onions are now, I can see the onions are turned into golden maybe color. Okay, now the next thing goes in, not before that. So you have to time that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I
Exactly.
understand that.
So the guy that's making sure, like orchestrating this whole thing, picture a guy that's running a symphony.
Yeah,
There's one guy
yeah.
that's doing that in the back of the restaurant in their kitchen.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
was covering the board, right? So everybody had to be in tune with him. Whatever he said, you
Mm-hmm.
had to just hear it. Yes, I got it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody would know that worked the restaurant would know what I'm talking about, right? And
Okay.
this
Yes,
part
yes.
really fascinated me. This is where I wanted to become more of a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is where the experience of leadership came in, right?
Okay.
I've heard of it. I played baseball when I was younger. Still played baseball at that time too, as well, right? But this is where the real leadership energy for me kicked in. Like I
Mm-hmm.
got it because I'm like, man, I want to call that board. I want to be up there calling the board.
Okay.
And I was paying attention as I'm cooking. I had to make sure I was um, in congruence with my team, that we're thinking as partners. You know what I mean? Because it was
Yeah.
like the way it works. It was amazing. Right? It was amazing. It
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing experience. I got good
Okay.
at the pans. I got good. Worked my way up to the grill because people are paying good money for what comes off the grill. Right? You're putting steaks. You're
Mm-hmm.
putting ribs. You're putting all those things there,
Yeah.
and those are like the big ticket items on the grill. So you got to be know what you're doing. You can't be wasting the food, right? And you got to be making
Yes.
sure that everybody else is congruent with you while you're listening to the board. So I worked my way there, crushed it on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I worked my way up to the board. And
Okay.
then I did my first promotion ever in my life at Moose Winooski's, right? I can't I can't remember what the promotion was. It was line manager or line something like that,
Okay.
right? So I got that promotion, crushed it. That was my first time I've actually got a taste of actually being a leader,
Mm.
making sure that everybody had to listen to me, right?
So, so let me ask you this. Was this a decision for you to go into leadership roles? Would you call
Um,
that looking back?
I wanted to. It would have been good. I was like, yeah, I remember it'd be great. I thought about doing it. And then when the opportunity arose, I remember somebody got fired or something happened, and we all got the opportunity to do it. So the manager at the time, he did a really good job with this actually. He's like, I'm looking for somebody to pick up this role. Everybody has an opportunity to do it.
Mhm.
However, whoever goes home writes me a letter of reasoning why they want this job or they want the opportunity to do it. And I'm going to go over the letters. Whoever has the best letter, um, will get the part.
Okay.
So I ran home. I went home that night. I got my mom to help me too. My mom was like, she's good at that kind of stuff. And I told her the opportunity. I'm like, mom, I have to give you this. Help me out with this. Help me out with this. She helped me out with it. I gave her the key points, right? We went over it together. We typed it out, printed it off. Next day, I gave it to him. He's like, "Oh, that was fast." I'm like, "Did anybody else give their letter?" He's like, "No." In my mind, I'm like, "I hope nobody else brings it." Right? One
Yeah.
other person brought it, but he wasn't getting the job. Like, there's no way. Over me, no way.
Mhm.
Right? And I actually got it.
Okay.
I got it, but I let it get to my head though. I got it
Oh.
for a few months, and then I got fired because
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into detail. There's no need.
Which just makes sense, maybe because you just mentioned it that you got it, you let it in your head.
Yeah,
You let you know the
yeah.
humbleness probably went away, and I understand what you're saying here. Okay, so what I wanted to know is, was this sort of a decision for you to, since you got the taste of leadership, was this a turning point or a decision making event for you to realize that in the future, leadership is where I am at? This is where I would rather be in those roles, do things where I'll go to leadership positions other than just doing any other kind of, let's say, work, which does not require leadership.
That's a great question. I knew from that point on
Mhm.
that I wasn't an average individual.
Okay.
I knew this from that
Mhm.
point on because I put my and it seemed effortless when I was in the kitchen. It seemed effortless, like I was doing things. I would listen to an order being called, and I'd have like the whole grill just filled with
Mhm.
food,
Mhm.
and the place is busy rocking, and it was effortless for me. I saw things in different ways that other people didn't see them, just because of the
Mhm.
passion I had for food.
Yeah.
Right? When I got somebody's order, I wanted them to get something, whether it was like a bar food, whatever the case food might be. I wanted them to get the best of what Daniel Crooks did. Right?
Ye- Yes.
So if I walked into any kitchen, I knew that the lowest, I'll give you an example after this, the lowest part of that kitchen wasn't for me. After I got fired from the Moose Winooski's, right next door, there was the Keg Steakhouse and Bar.
Yeah. Okay. I know where this is going then. Okay, go ahead.
Right? So I got fired. I left the back door, and there was a guy I know that worked next door. He was the kitchen manager. His name was Brandon.
Okay.
Nicest guy. But he used to see us going in the back, and people from the kitchen or the restaurant they go in the back of the restaurant to smoke the cigarettes and talk.
Yeah.
So the two doors intersected like this
Okay.
to the back alley where the grease shops were and everything like that. So I got fired. I left that back door. Brandon was outside. He stopped me with my stuff. It was early. He's like, "Yo, man, aren't you supposed to be working?" He's like, "No, I got fired." He's like,
Mm.
"Really? You got fired?" He's like, "You want a job?" I'm like, "That was fast." He's like, "Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I do want a job." He's like, "Okay, come on in. Bring your resume the next day, and we'll talk." So they had to give me an
Okay.
interview. They had to give me an
Yeah.
interview. So the next day I went there. I was early. Brought my resume. They gave me the job. They're like, "Okay, start in 2 days." This is long story
Mhm.
short. I started. They put me in the dish pit, which is the dishwashing section.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Like, I'm like, "Hey guys, you know what? Sorry, this is exactly what I said." I'm like, "You know what? I didn't even start yet. Put on my apron. I'm ready. I'm ready to go." I'm like walking towards the kitchen. They're like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
you're gonna be filling in for the dish guy." I'm like, "Nah,
Mhm.
sorry, man. This is not what I signed up for, and
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be doing the dish pit. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, really? Okay, cool. I thought you needed a job." I'm like, "Yeah, I need the job, but this is what I like. I
Mhm.
love to cook. Put me anywhere. Put me on salads. Put me somewhere. But I'm not going in the dish pit. I'm not doing it."
Mhm.
As I started walking out, they're like, "Hey, I started walking away. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it." And they were getting busy at the time. People were coming in. right?
Yeah.
Somebody called in sick that day.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started walking out, and I think they got the news of somebody calling in sick that day. They called me, "Hey, Danny, come back here for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind working the fryer as a fryer appy cook?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem."
Okay. So it worked
No
out.
problem.
Okay.
No
Yeah.
problem. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not staying here for long. I'm not staying
Uh-huh.
as a cook for long. There's no way. Right? With that mentality and that decision making, I made a decision. I was like, you know what? I am not staying in this position for long. I'm going to be at the
Mm.
top. 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks, right? To get to the first cooking, meaning like you're cooking all the steaks and lobster for the keg, right? And
Wow.
you're playing the board at the same time, right?
Mm.
So which means you get more money. But
Yeah.
at the time, I didn't care about the money. I did not care. I want to be getting paid going rate. But within 2 weeks, I moved up through 3 sections or 4 sections, I
Mm.
can't remember, to the uh, first cook, they call it,
Okay.
right? And yeah, I was there for about 3 years. I think
Okay.
I got fired. I think I got fired from there too.
That's
But they loved me there. I got fired from there too because obviously I didn't learn that lesson.
yeah.
And by that time, I just felt that working in the restaurant industry
Mm-hmm.
wasn't paying enough. It wasn't paying it.
Paying enough or
It was
pain?
it, Hey, it didn't pay enough. It wasn't giving me enough.
Okay.
Yeah, for the amount of
Okay.
hours and time and all that stuff. And plus, I wanted to go overseas, right? So, long story short, I had an opportunity to work in my buddy's construction company
Okay.
because I heard that they were paying. And this is the time where I was like, yeah, everybody would talk about, yeah, I'm getting paid $30 an hour, $20. When I thought it was cool to get paid by the hour. You know what I mean? And I'd actually measure my time with the amount of money that somebody was going to give me, right? Which is funny if you think about it. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I fell into that trap, right?
Okay.
Of to exchange my time for money, right? And I did it. I made some good money. And then I got good with that. But again, that
Mm-hmm.
leadership energy just kept gnawing at me. It just kept, I can't do this for this. I can't do it. I can't do it. Taking orders. I'm good with it. I'm good with taking orders because I'm teachable, right? But who are you listening to? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that at
Okay.
that time. I didn't know
Okay.
about that at the time, right? But it was just embedded in me. Like, I'm like, why am I listening to you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know you can't do what I do, man. Like, what do you have that I want? Nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how I thought back then, right? So
Okay.
worked in that section for a while. And then I had the opportunity to work at a higher level because it was just actually a construction company that was doing miscellaneous stuff, jack of all trades, master of none type thing, right?
Yes.
And then I wanted to get into framing because a good friend of mine was a framer, and he would tell
Okay.
me how well he was making money and blah blah blah. But his dad didn't want to take me, so
Okay.
he said you got to learn experience before you come work with me in framing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and found a framing job. Looked in the
Okay.
newspaper. At the time, newspaper, there was no Google search. There was none of that, right? I'm not that old, but at the time, there was none of that, right? So I went to the newspaper, called the number. The guy's like, yeah, come in. You need a tool belt, this, that, right away. I didn't know anything about framing, didn't care, just wanted to get with Steve and his dad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got the job, worked there for a good 2 years, learned something, which I thought I did. Then I went to Steve, like, I'm sick of this guy. I need to work with you. He's like, okay, no problem. Your dad tried me out, right? So this is where I
Okay.
turned. When I work with Steve's dad, this is where I started learning the discipline now.
Mm.
I was combining the leadership with discipline and action taking, teachability, you know, my teachability index was like it was growing there. You know, it was growing at that point.
Okay.
Because I'll give you a few reasons why. Okay. Steve's dad, great guy. He's one of the people that will always stick out in my life and always have that presence in my life, right? He was an older guy, but this guy didn't put up with he didn't put up
Okay.
with crap.
Okay.
And me and Steve were good friends. We're young. Steve was a little bit older than I was, right? And it was Steve's old man. And Steve's dad didn't speak that good of English, right?
Okay.
And we weren't even allowed to talk. It was work, strictly work, like, right?
Okay.
Me and Steve would take turns missing days because we used to party, do these things, right? Work hungover, that kind of stuff. And Steve's dad, he knew about it. Like he knew, but he wasn't putting up with it, right?
Okay.
So he was like, it was like military type of construction work,
Okay.
right? And I remember one lesson. Sorry, give me one sec. Give me one sec.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember one lesson that I learned when I first started with his dad. I asked him how to do something. I asked him how to. I remember. I think it was like, oh, swing the hammer or something like that. Whatever. He told me how to do it properly, right? And then I made the mistake of asking him the same question 2 weeks later.
Okay.
And this is when I learned, like, okay, you got to pay attention because this guy let me have it. You know, the only thing he knew in English very well was to yell my name, Danny. No, like it was. You know what I mean? It still sticks out in my mind. So, long story short, man, that guy taught me a lot, and the people in my life are they play a big role in my life. You know, the influential people in my life, step by step. I can remember their names fully.
So they challenged you to up your game, and they were the pivotal points of your life to learn something about yourself,
Yeah,
to realize where my life's path is. I can understand that's what you're saying here, that when you're mentioning about some of the mentors who you acquired along the way, right? And
yeah,
then since I've worked with you, I already know that the discipline that you have is obviously it comes from the experiences that you have had. And then also let's talk about your father as well. I always wanted to know because he's from military, right? So I know that I understand that he is always busy and he's always working. So I've heard you say that over and over. Let's talk about that. What did you learn from your father growing up?
I've learned a lot from my dad. I've
Let's
learned,
hear it.
and if he was listening right now, like, I've learned what to do and what not to do. Believe me.
Okay.
Laugh. You know what I mean? But mostly what to do. You know, there's more what to do than what not to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one thing I've learned is the work ethic and discipline. Like that's something I've really adhered to from my dad. You know? So like my mom and dad, they separated, I don't know, it's probably about maybe about 10 or 11, maybe. I don't remember. Didn't really bother me that much, right? My dad was always around, but he wasn't always around, meaning that I knew that my dad, if he wasn't around, he was working. He was doing something constructive. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it wasn't like, oh, my dad's not here. All my friends have their dad and they're not at the ball game with me. I had my mom at the ball game. That's what mattered. My mom took me to baseball. My dad never went to any one of my games. It didn't matter to me, though. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
That's good.
It didn't matter because I knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? I understood at a young age that work ethic is required. You need to be at work. You need to like have some kind of mental fortitude when it comes to persistence. And my dad is a very persistent individual. And this is where I got that from.
So since you're saying that you knew that where your dad was,
Yeah.
can I ask you, how did you know? Is it your mom telling you
My
that
mom
he's
would
at work?
tell me, like, here's the thing, like, Christmas Day, my dad was at work. He was working. Birthday, I get, hey, happy birthday, son. I'm going to send you something. No problem. Okay, cool. No problem. It wasn't like he was showing up with balloons and like, let's go get some ice cream. None of that. Like, you know what I
Okay.
mean? I didn't have a soft serve type of family. It wasn't like that. It was like, okay, you know what I mean? My dad's the military guy, like,
Yeah.
And then, at a young age, before my work ethic, before my first job, I used to ride my bike to his, because he was an auto mechanic. He had an auto mechanic shop and body shop attaching tow trucking to the company as well.
Yeah.
So I'd ride my bike from Dixie and Bloor to Dixie and Dundas, because that's where he was. Because I was in Dixie area, right?
Okay.
And I'd go there on a weekend, or in the summer, it would be during the day, and I'd be doing work. I'd be sorting nuts and bolts. I would be picking up, keeping the shop, whatever it was. Like, you know what I mean? He just, if I was there, I couldn't be seen doing nothing, or else that would be a problem.
Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, if I'm going to go there, I better not be wasting his time. That's how it was, man. You know what I mean? And he was very strict when it came to like being soft. If you were like, I'll give you some stories. Like, I remember one time I was putting bottles away, because like these guys used to drink on after hours, after the day was done. They'd have like, the crew of guys would come together and start drinking beer, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Next day I'd come and there'd be beer bottles everywhere, and he'd be like, "Danny, go pick beers, put them in the corner, and get them ready so somebody can bring them back and get the returns."
Yeah.
So I remember one time I was doing this, putting them in the back, and his friends were talking, and I was putting these beers away, and it was in the dark corner, and I remember, and it was dusty, and I remember it was just dark. Like, no one would go in that corner. I don't know why I chose to put them there, but I was putting the beers away, and along came this massive spider, and it just at the same time, yeah, at the same time I saw this thing. Doesn't my dad see me at the same time jump, and I went like this? He's like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? Like, I'm not going to get into detail of what he was saying, but you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so like that could give you a little bit of a visual, or maybe is use your imagination of like, like he didn't hit me or nothing. It was just like, man, like, like there's no softness. There was no soft serve there, right? So
I understand.
yeah. So that's where the old school military came out. You know what I mean? And it was like, I learned from it. Right? It was a good learning experience, right? Right.
Yeah.
Still, me and my dad have a great relationship. It's like we're buddies. It's not we're not like, oh, you never came and saw me, or like, or any of that stuff, none of that crap. Like,
No complaining.
there's no complaining. And even if I did, he probably would say something. Like, you know what I mean? He would say something if I complained. I'd get some kind of a lesson, right?
So this comes down to the same thing. Like you have told me, if you don't hear it, you'll feel it.
Yeah,
So
that's where that came from. Anybody listening to this or watching this, Jamaican, they know what I'm talking about. If you don't hear, you feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But man,
That's interesting.
like, even though my dad was like rough, every day I wanted to be around the guy. There were some days where he wasn't around, or like he was working, and it was kind of a disappointment for me. You know what I mean? Not to be around the guy.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's understood. So let me ask you this: since you have learned so many valuable lessons growing up, right? Now that you're running an e-commerce company, and you've had massive success in door-to-door industry as well. What are some of the business principles that you learned growing up and you still apply them and they always work? What would be, let's say, your top two business
Top two?
philosophies that you,
Oh
yeah,
man, I'll tell you right now, you can't run business by yourself. You need to be a true a lover of people,
okay,
right?
okay,
When I mean love people, you actually really mean love people. Yeah, people are gonna piss you off for sure. Get it. But understand that they're gonna piss you off. Keyword you. The only
okay,
way they're gonna piss you off is if you allow it. You understand?
okay, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
There's something that you need to fix as an individual.
Mm,
Right? I've learned this very quick, and I've thought about this. I've pondered on this many times. I tell people like,
okay,
yo, you know what? I absolutely truly love people. Yeah, that's nice. But what experience have you have to actually say that? You understand?
okay, yeah,
You know what I mean? I've pondered on this. Yeah, well, if I say I love people, which I do, why is it that if somebody gets me angry or irritated or gets slightly whatever, because we've all done it,
mhm,
right? No one's
yeah,
perfect. How can I say that? What do I need to do to make sure I minimize that? Or what can I do to make sure that I understand the individual and what they're going through, playing the understanding game?
yeah,
You understand?
yeah,
And learned that this this ponder that I would be thinking about all the time. How can I get better with people? How can I get better with people? Because the way I was raised, man, I grew up in a multicultural neighborhood. I've seen a lot of things happen to people because they've owed
mhm,
money or whatever. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Short tempered, this, that, just, the third, you're playing basketball and there's something happening, or you know what I mean? So
mhm.
I was introduced to this at a young age. I've always seen
Okay,
shortages, whatnot, but I grew up in a very multicultural. I'd high five everybody. Everybody loved me, man. Everybody knew who I was, right? Because of my older brother and just my energy.
mhm,
But there's one thing I just didn't understand. Okay, like, okay, if I truly love people, what do I need to do to correct certain things in order for me to understand people? You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And I learned that in sales. I learned that in sales, even though sales is right after construction. I had my own company in construction, right? And I stuck out like a sore thumb there
Okay,
because what I mean by that is that there's a lot of negativity on a construction site.
mhm,
Sometimes I'd fall into the trap of negativity, but I always had a smile on my face. I always high fiving people, and I'm always talking. Right? I was always talking to people, and people are like, "Yeah, I had guys come up to me, and like, you don't belong here." Like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, you just don't belong here, right? And I never understood that. What do you mean by that? Like, am I good looking? What do you mean? Because most of the guys on the job site are just like, I'm not going to say it, but like, it's just,
yeah, yeah,
man. And I got into the door to door sales, and this is where I knew I belonged in sales. I knew what I needed to do now. So for
okay,
anybody knocking on doors, I know we've done it together, right?
yeah, yeah,
And before I met you, I was in door to door sales for about a year and a half probably,
okay,
right? But when I first start talking to people for charity, I knew that was for me because
mhm,
now I can understand what I needed to do to get better with understanding people, understanding certain things. Because I do love being around people, right? I just need to understand a few things. And as I
mhm,
started knocking and knocking, man, to this day, I've been in door to door sales for about close to a decade in sales in general.
mhm,
And I probably have spoken to, I couldn't tell you, 20,000 people. Who
mhm,
knows? You know what I mean?
mhm.
Face to face, trying to sell them. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So one of the things, key things is just I've learned in sales or being in my experience is understanding people.
Mhm.
You have to understand people. You have to first you need to understand yourself and understand the
Yeah.
things that trigger you, and you need to work on those triggers and release those blockages somehow.
Hmm.
Somehow there's a
Okay.
if you get
That,
annoyed by simple things, it ain't them, it's you.
yeah,
Right?
that's phenomenal because most people don't get that.
Yeah.
Most people don't get that. No. So
I know
what
you
you
get
said, I get it now. I get it now. Well, I wasn't there earlier.
it. Yeah.
Now I get it. Uh, so yeah, that's carry on. Yeah, that's. I just wanted to share that this is if you understand what he's saying, you will realize that there is a power there. Anybody who triggers you, there is a power there. There
Yeah.
is something you need to fix in yourself, and that will change your state, and more of the things that you're desiring will start coming in your life. But you have to get rid of this mental trigger or the mental block that you have. Yes, Danny,
Yes.
carry
There's
on.
there's a book that you recommended me. Uh can't remember the book is called. I'm reading it right now, actually. How to Solve Your Money Problems.
Oh yeah, Victor Bach. Yes,
Victor Bach. And there's a part in the book where it says there's two energy forces, right? You know what I'm talking about?
I know
And
it.
it amazed me. And it's like, it's not just about money, it's about anything, right?
Yes,
And the way he explained it was amazing. Picture you, I'm going to
exactly.
explain it for you. You know what I'm talking about. Do you mind if I explain it?
Please go ahead.
Correct me, help me out if I start stumbling here.
It's
So there's two energy forces, one that brings in and one that goes out, right? To
yes,
give you a visual, I'm flying a kite. That kite is now attached to a string.
mm,
There's a force pushing the kite out. I'm holding
yes,
that force in. If I let go of the string, the force is going to take that kite even further,
yes.
right? How am I doing here?
That's actually good because that's one of the forces that is taking the kite out. Yes, you're right.
And then there would be a force of you pulling it,
Yes,
right? So
yeah,
there must be some kind of median there, right?
yeah,
Whether you want that kite to go out a little bit further or you want it to come in, you got to be in control of it.
exactly.
Does that make sense? So, but
Yeah,
you have to know what is that blockage there or where that resistance is.
yes,
Right? You have to know the strength of the resistance. And you have to know where that resistance is coming from. Right?
exactly.
You have to
Yeah.
ponder on these things, ask questions about these things. And honestly, I've done it, and I wanted to get really good because I knew the opportunity when I was for me being in sales. It's not about me going door to door. It's about sharing that opportunity, teaching a whole bunch of people to do that and make the money and learn the way I did. Right?
Mm,
I actually ran a meeting on this today with the team, and the meeting was about exchange and abundance. I had a quick rant on that in the meeting.
the
You know how
boiler room.
my rants are, right?
I
Yeah,
I've
right,
experienced it, so I know it.
right. And
Yeah.
my rants are like that, right? So somebody just opened the door. I was about to rant on them. I'm so sorry about that.
It's all good.
So exchange and abundance. And I said, look, man, you got to be when you're in the sales industry and you're doing this door to door thing. Number one, we're doing door to door for charities, right?
Mm,
So you got to understand what you're doing out there. You're providing more value than what you're taking, right? You're actually doing a
yeah.
disjustice to whoever yourself and whoever is in your circle if you don't come back performing. Because
Mm,
that means you're not adhering to the systems, you're not adhering to the training, you're not doing anything to make yourself become better, right?
that makes sense.
So you're actually
Yeah.
taking that, and you understand what I'm saying?
I get it because I understand what you're saying. Because back then, when I was having struggles not performing, my mindset was all about me, 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 me. However, what you said right now, and I had to learn this lesson over time. So But now that I look back and now my understanding, I can understand there was no contribution for me to, I was not giving anything. It was just about me. So that is the reason I struggled. But now that you're bringing this, because you used to tell me back then, I remember, but now that you have put it in a way that what are you contributing at? The keyword for me is contributing. What are you contributing from your end? And and understanding, okay, how can I contribute more to then work on yourself? And then that is now shifted in me. So I can understand what you're saying. Back then I didn't have that awareness level. So I get what you're saying here. Yes.
Yeah, and the contribution comes in many ways. This is
Yeah.
where this is where imagination comes in. This is where creativity comes in. This is where
Mhm.
your self-image comes in. Self-image is huge, right?
Huge,
Huge in sales. If you don't see yourself
huge.
here, you can't bring anybody here. It's
Oh
just what,
no, won't happen.
right? So one of the things I felt that I was offering when I knocked on somebody's door and I spoke to them and they answered the door, they just finished eating a bag of chips, they just finished watching the TV, or they're hearing their kids screaming, or they just got home from a shitty day at work, or their wife's yelling at them, or whatever it is. I was a treat.
Hmm.
When I knocked at your door, it was like trick or treat, like, you know what I mean? Here's Daniel
Yeah,
Crooks.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's extreme value on its own, right?
That
Right?
makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
To top it off, I am giving you the opportunity to sign up and maybe sponsor a child.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Right. And then, if there's somebody else at the door, their kid, whatever, it's just the experience alone of me giving that energy to somebody. You know what I mean? I've had guys tell me that, oh, I'm not interested. I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested. I don't even want to talk. I don't have kids. I don't care. At the end of it, they're like, thank you so much for coming to the door. How long do I got to do this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They thank me for giving me money. I didn't give them anything in return, right?
Hmm.
Based on my belief system, on the value that I was walking around with. I wasn't walking
Yeah,
around with anything tangible.
yeah,
There was nothing in my jacket saying, hey, look, check out these watches here, or this fine set of whatever it is on the inside
yeah,
of my
yeah, yeah,
jacket. There was
yeah.
none of, right? At the end of the day, right? I'd even have people at the end of the day tell me after each sign up or a couple of signups, as many signups I did like this. Oh, what
Mhm.
charity is this for again?
Yeah, exactly. Because they were mesmerized by the value that you were bringing in their lives by making them happy for the moment. There was a lot of excitement talking to you, and you were
Yeah,
literally changing their day for that moment, for that period.
100%.
You changed their
Yep.
lives, the contribution, you made them feel better, which is a contribution itself. So that's what I was saying, because you were providing value that way,
Yeah.
and that's what made them realize, okay, I'm talking to a real person here. It's not, he's thinking about me right now, he's thinking about others, he's thinking
1,000%.
about me. And that's why it is always felt you certain things, if you are fake, people know it. If you're real, people know it.
Yeah.
So it comes
People
out.
recognize it's real. Like it's what it is, right? Um, I also know that everything is energy. If I walk
Mm,
with high energy and I'm carrying the most energy and I have that leadership energy and I have that energy of like just that self-image, I think highly of myself. First of all, people would want to talk to you right away. They're just like, okay, this guy has something energetically. It's just like what it is. They can't pull away from it. You know what I mean? I think your screen froze again there. Energetically, it's like they can't pull away from it, right?
mhm.
So everything is energy. So if I'm walking around and I'm that guy and I'm thinking that, that this is what made it hard for people to say no or walk away or not want to
Mhm.
talk to me. Like I've had some big dudes at the door just so stone cold, and at the end of the day, they were just like, like, thank you, man. Like, why do you do
Mhm.
this? You know what I mean? I'll tell them number one
Mhm.
is for the kids. Like obviously I want to be able to help kids and stuff like that. Number two, I get to be able to build on my experience. I get to speak to guys like you. Number three, I make money,
Yeah.
right? Let's not leave that out of the equation, right? Number four, I'll get to build a team. I get to train people. I get to teach them what I know. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I get to run in my business doing this. I can, I get the opportunity to work with other charities. I get to meet people like you. You know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean,
was fun. It was
right?
fun. It
I
is
got
still fun. Yeah.
I got introduced to the Global Information Network through this business,
Yeah.
learning great information through them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's X amount of things that I can say, like, that sales has done for me, right?
Yeah.
So that was to answer your first question. What was one thing? So people is the one thing.
Yeah.
People is that one thing. What's another thing that I say that I've taken away from this that I'm getting? There's a number of things. I know that next part of the question will come to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say, I don't want to just give you any answer. You know what I mean? I don't just
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
give you an answer just because to give you an answer. It has to, like,
Mhm.
well, I should have said this. So let me sit on that one for a bit, and I'll definitely give you an answer. But the first one is just people, man. Learning how to, or learning about myself so I can become a better people person, a better
Mhm.
leader. Leadership is something that's something that I've learned in
Leadership.
this.
Yeah.
Leadership, that leadership energy,
Mm.
unlocking that leadership energy, right? Understanding that if something pisses you off or you're getting, you know, slightly irritated or slightly
Mm.
annoyed, gotta use the words, man. I'm learning
Those are
to,
the right words.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that I need to fix something. I need to be able to not fix, but I need to adjust something,
Mm.
right? There's a situation or there's an event that I need to really understand,
Mm.
right? For me to become a better individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's one thing. Leadership
Okay.
is something that I honestly think I'll never master.
Mm-hmm.
Because I strongly believe if you look at guys like Bruce Lee was a guy that I grew up hearing guys talking about. My uncle was really into Bruce Lee, but I've watched some of his Enter the Dragon. I've watched some of these things, but I truly believe guys like that in their mind don't believe that they're masters because that puts out that teachability and wanting to learn
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Because the word master is like, yeah, like you mastered it. There's nothing else to learn,
Mm.
right? So a lot of these guys that are being called master from people outside, I believe in their mind, they're not masters. They're well known. They will know what they're doing. You know, you know. Bruce Lee did that punch, the 1 inch punch 10,000 times. You know what I mean? He understood. He was a master of that. We believe, but in his mind, he could have did a 2 inch punch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or half-inch punch. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
So, leadership is something that I think that I'll always be polishing.
Mm-hmm.
Thing. I'll always be learning that, right? I'll always like I'll never be 100% at that. You know, I believe I'll go
Yeah.
up and down with the leadership. You
Yeah.
know, there's guys
Which,
like,
which
yeah,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Which comes down to because you have that learning attitude, right? Because you know that in my understanding, a master knows that there is so much more to know, and that's why a master is keeping himself or herself always humble because they understand, even like you said right now, 1 inch can be half an inch, and half an inch would require a different mindset first.
Of
It's
course,
never the it's never the actions, because I remember the other day when we were speaking, Danny, remember you were saying that you want to go from now, this is the level, you want to hit the next level. So when I was asking you and you were saying, well, it's not about the actions, I know it, it's about the different way of thinking that I have to incorporate in your day-to-day life. And it's not even day-to-day life, in your beingness,
of course.
so that your actions will obviously change accordingly, right? So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like if you think about it, If I continue taking actions based on the same thought, my actions won't change. It's just what it
Yeah,
is. I
it's
gotta,
insanity.
yeah, this is why your head is at the top of your body. Like, think about it. Like,
And I love the fact when you used to mention, because just make sure it doesn't have nut and bolts, because otherwise just clinking.
yeah,
Make
you know
sure
what
you
I mean?
have something.
You know what I mean? I remember that reminds me. My mom used to say to me, very hardworking woman,
Yeah.
very inspirational. She used to say to me, I remember I still do it sometimes. Like, I'll put my wallet down and I'm like, where did I put it? Like, what,
Hmm.
like, where did like, like, I
Yeah, yeah.
misplaced it.
Hmm.
And then I always used to ask, Mom, where did I put it? And she used to say to me, if your head wasn't attached, you'd probably lose that too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you
Okay.
do if your head wasn't attached? Or something like that. I can't remember, but I remember this. Right?
So since you remember this, what was the learning for you, that you, now that you recollect that memory, what was the learning from there for you?
Just from there, it's just, like, have set spots for where you put your things. Like, or just
Okay, organize.
organization. My mom's
Yeah,
very organized when it came to work.
yeah,
She's organized like that, right? Organization is key. Like, now that
yeah.
I think about it, if I have the training, if I had the training back then, I would encourage anybody, if you have kids, Global Information Network is where it's at. I'll tell you this
Mhm.
right now, because if I had that training and I heard all
Yeah.
these things when I was a kid, it's like, you're right. You know what? You're right.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you if I would be a better person than I am now. That's something I would never say, because I'm great. Right now I'm you know what I mean? I've learned a lot about myself, and my the way I think of myself is very high, right? Maybe I would think
Hmm.
higher than I think now about myself, than but like the the way I grew up is it's a wonderful thing. I
Okay, let
wouldn't
me ask you this.
wouldn't trade it in. I would not trade it back
Okay,
for
now
right.
that we're talking about this, let me ask you this. Now, I had this
Oh, here
question
we go.
from way back. I wanted to ask you now. Okay, so I've heard you say that I've always thought about myself in the highest of the versions of myself. I've always
Yeah,
thought high of myself. Those are your exact same words I'm talking about. Let me ask you this. There is a word called entitled. And I'm not saying it from a negative connotation here. I'm talking from the word entitlement, because entitlement is very subjective. What is in your mind and you feel entitled to that is what I'm saying here. So have you ever felt entitled to success,
yeah,
or deserving of success?
yeah,
Yeah? Okay,
yes.
cool. Now let's ponder on that. Let's ponder on that. What do you think are the factors that have given you that mindset of deserving and entitlement?
Attitude and work
For
ethic.
attitude and work ethic. Okay,
Yeah,
let's talk about both, because I've seen this common with people. They want to succeed, but they either have nothing out of those two, or have one, but the second is not there.
yeah. Okay, it's
So
true.
let's talk about. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
there's many words that you can use, right?
Yeah.
Attitude, work ethic, in between, persistence, whatever else you can throw in there, right? But
Mhm.
attitude, number one. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Some people, I've been called delusional. I
Okay.
could say, yeah, you know what? I have a little bit of delusion. If you
Yeah.
tell me I can't do something, buddy, damn well I'm going to do it. Like, oh, you can't do that. I've heard some monstrosity come out of people's mouth when it comes to me wanting to do something, or it's something that they probably couldn't do, so they think I couldn't do it. So then it
Okay.
deems me to be delusional.
Okay. So I would
Right?
say you
That makes
said,
sense.
if somebody, yeah, yeah, if somebody said to you like, you can't do that, so did you become like how we have learned tactically aggressive is how
Oh,
you became.
aggressive is like my middle name. I've learned how to take certain.
We
Right?
can ponder on some other
Yeah,
day,
we
but
could
yeah.
talk about this all day. How I've actually taken and transmuted negative aggression into positive aggression.
Mm,
I've done that. But I'll give you an example of what I mean about when being delusional, right?
mhm,
I had the opportunity to start a business in Jamaica, which I did, right? I packed up me and the ex-girlfriend, we packed up a sea container with like 80, $90,000 worth of restaurant equipment, all kinds of stuff, hot dog carts. I was the first guy
mhm,
to do hot dogs in Jamaica the way it would probably be done there now. Number 2 on TripAdvisor. Didn't really care about that. I was partying, have a great time. I was making great US money. I didn't care about TripAdvisor, but I still made it there, right?
yeah.
But my next door neighbor at the time, he would see me packing this sea container. It was sitting on my driveway for a month. And I'd buy things, put it in there. Buy things, put it in there. What are you doing? I am going to Jamaica to start a business. Oh, you can't do that. What are you, crazy? You don't know what you're doing. You don't know this. You don't know that. I'm like, you don't know me, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever
Yeah.
happened to the scripture, honor thy neighbor. Like, why are you telling me I can't do this? You
Mhm,
know what I mean?
yeah.
So that there just kicked in that delusion. I was like, okay, you tell me I can't do this. Watch me. Watch me do
Mhm,
this. Right. And this is why it's very important. I've learned through my training to be very careful who you tell things to
yeah.
and tell them what you're telling them. Like, obviously, he
Mhm,
had no choice to know what I was doing because he sees a sea container in my driveway and I'm putting things in there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He'd ask me a
Yeah.
question, this is what I'm doing. And I didn't have the training at that time.
Mhm,
Right. Even though, and the reason why I say be careful who you tell things to, because even though he was like, you know, he was half in, half out, he was still like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. Right. So he was basically trying to steal my dreams away from me. But if I didn't
mhm,
go through what I went through before, I would have probably fell into this guy's trap.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I didn't have the mental
Yes.
toughness, if I didn't grow up the way I did, if I didn't have the dad I had or the mother I had or the grandmother I've seen, being persistent in this country and just not listening to the naysayers and doing all these things, I would have fallen into the trap and I would have lost the fight before I even started, or lost the game
Mhm,
before I even started it, right? I actually use that as ammo, as juice to be like, you know what? Watch. I'm gonna make it. And I did make it work. I made it work for some time until I screwed that up. But it was a good screw up though. I learned a lot. I made some good money there and in Jamaica, right? I'm not my family's Jamaican. I was born in Canada, but I made it work. I made a boatload of friends there, and that was the issue. I met some wrong people there, and I just making the wrong decision. I
mhm.
made the wrong decisions, and it took me a minute to actually own up to the faults that I had there, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the only way I was able to move forward is if I took full responsibility for my F up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I had the opportunity after that, long story short, after that short period of time, I had the opportunity to work in sales. And this is why I
Okay.
became successful in sales, is because I owned up to and I took full responsibility for my losses and my wins in Jamaica.
Okay. Okay. That's good.
Do you understand?
Mm.
Full
Yes.
responsibility, every last thing. The money I lost, the people, whatever the things that happened there, took full responsibility for that. And that allowed me to grow as a leader so I can lead a team here.
Yeah.
Because the guys that I
Yeah.
lead now, they know. Like if I tell you to do something, it's not something that I'll never do or cannot do or will not do myself. And they
Mhm.
can feel it from me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's me taking responsibility for the worst that's happened in my life.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
If you could take responsibility for the worst that's happened in your life, what happened when things are good, baby? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my team, they
Yeah.
can feel it. you
Yeah.
know? So this is one thing I've learned. Yeah.
So, so let me ask you this now. Since you've had so much experience with running a business in Jamaica and then failing there, I wouldn't say failing, but you learned from your lessons there. You made some mistakes. That's good. You took responsibility. You learned your lessons. Your upbringing with your father, with your mother, with your grandmother, all of the things from your past. Now you've had a successful door-to-door sales industry business, and now that you are in the car business,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. How has all of that experience now that you're into car business, let's talk about how all of that you have learned is now helping you to make another, you can say, a landmark in your life's journey.
Door-to-door industry, great. Love it. It's done a lot for me, helped change my life. It's helped assisted me to change my life. It didn't change my life for me. I did that. But it's helped me do a lot of things. It introduced, like I said, it helped me introduce me to the Global Information Network. I've learned a lot of great things door to door, face-to-face communication, how to close people within 5 minutes, all that good stuff, right? But man, I got sick and tired of playing small.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a lot of big things you can do here, right? But it's just like I need to be a small fish in a big pond. I need to grow into that pond, bro. I need to, because in the car industry, there's a lot of guys that are crushing it. Like I met some serious players that are selling, $1.5 million car for one car. They're selling these like hotcakes. Guys that have been in the game for 10 years. I'm calling them, asking them questions. I'm the small guy. I'm reaching up. I'm not reaching side to side on guys that have done things 20 years ago. Right? These guys are doing this now.
Good.
Accumulating millions of dollars a month with a team of like 4 guys.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not just about the money, but man, if you're keeping score, that's your measuring stick. If you got guys that are making $10 million a month, man, they're doing something right.
They're doing something right. Yes.
Yeah. That exchange and abundance is at a high level. You know what I mean? And they're not talking about past successes, what they did 20 years ago in some office somewhere, right? They're talking about, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can see it. Like I'm reaching up, and I gotta get around the right people, if you will.
Yes.
Right. So I gotta, and it's not like, and for me to get around these individuals, right? They don't need money. What can I do to get noticed from these guys? Right? They don't need my money. I can't offer them, hey man, I got $1 million. You want it? They're gonna laugh at me. Get out of here. I made that yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got to be able to offer them something that is intangible. You know what I mean? I got to be able to give them something. I got to be able to sit down at a table with these guys and break bread with these individuals. I got to give them something that's big.
Yeah.
Something your money won't be able to buy as easily. You understand? So this is what I love about what I'm doing now, and the things that I'm learning to do right now, because it's been a year. We're doing a great job. I've met some really good individuals. I've reconnected with a lot of good people. I'm building a really good team right now. I'm learning the business. We're selling cars, right? I'm learning things that I've never learned. I didn't know before. There's a lot of good things that are coming. Struggle is good when you start something new and you're struggling to learn new things. Like I've gone to the gym for 20 years. The first time at the gym, I wanted to lift the, 2 plates bench press for the first time. But I knew if I tried that weight's going to drop and probably break my neck. Right.
Yeah.
So I got to start off small. I got to work my way up. I understood that at a very young age because, I'm a pretty fit. My physique is there. Right. So that's your experience. Right. So Yeah, so the
That's
car industry it's great, and honestly, it's just another stone for me to step on. To be honest,
yeah.
yeah,
So let me ask you this. Where do you see, depending upon, it's not even depending upon because anything can change just by the way you think, but
yeah.
where do you see yourself in, let's say, a few shortcoming years?
I see myself, to be honest, influencing and inspiring, motivating, teaching a lot of people, whether
Mhm.
they're young, old, whatever it is. I'll give you an example because this is something that's been I've been thinking about, and it's been a vision in my mind. It's been there. It's there.
Okay.
What's other things, right? And a good friend of mine is going through some trials and tribulations, and he's a multimillionaire, right? And he was going through some trials and tribulations. I reconnected with him shortly recently, and I was speaking to him about some things. Long story short, he's like, "Yo, man, after speaking to you, brother, I just got a brand new burst of energy."
Okay.
I didn't talk him off the ledge or anything like that, but it
Hmm.
just gave him power. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I wasn't trying to do it. I was just being Daniel Crooks,
Yeah.
saying I truly love people, right? And
Yeah.
he's like, "Yo, thank you, man. Honestly, man, I love you, man. Honestly, anything you need from me, blah blah blah." And this is what I said to you: I got to be able to offer things that money can't buy,
Intangible. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
This guy is worth tens of millions of dollars, right? Young dude, right? And I've
Hmm.
done business with them in the past, right? But by him telling me that, just reinforced that I
Hmm.
can motivate or not, well, inspire anybody, right?
Hmm.
Regardless of whatever money you have or whatever accomplishments you have, you know, again, tangibles can't amount to intangibles.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I know that I can give you something intangible that you'll never forget.
Mhm. I understand that. I
Does that make sense?
understand. I
Yeah.
That makes sense. I love the fact that you're mentioning about when you see yourself as reaching up, then what you have is not really something that you can offer in terms of, let's say, tangible stuff. The only thing that you can offer then is the energy, is everything intangible that can impact their lives, because we all have something to provide. It's but you have to dig in, you have to know who you are. And talking to you, every time I meet you, I've been with you so long, I've pretty much practically 24/7 I've lived with you. So
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
what you're saying when it comes to self-image. You've said so many things today. Self-image, you've talked about deserving, you've talked about attitude, you've talked about work ethic. There's so many nuggets here that, and your life has, the way we have shared our days, and the way we have talked to each other on our cigar walks,
Yeah.
all
Can
throughout. Yeah, go ahead.
reaching up and intangibles, right? If you're reaching up to somebody, that's the only thing they should be able to offer you, or should be looking for, is an intangible experience with this individual.
Mhm.
That's the only thing anybody should be able to offer. As a leader,
Yeah,
a real
yeah.
leader will never, we should never, or will never, should never offer you anything like that.
Hmm.
Because if you're a leader and you're teaching somebody how to do something, it has to come from them. You know, to unlock leader. From what I've learned from my mentor, one of the mentors, same mentor you have, one of the ways to unlock leadership energy is to go through some kind of pain and understand, like, bro, like, if you really want something, it should be painful enough that you don't have it. That's gonna unlock what it is that you need to unlock so you can get it,
Yeah.
right? So a real leader
Yeah.
is not going to hand out anything,
Exactly.
regardless of how bad they want you to stay or whatever it is that they want you to do for them. Buddy, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it's not a handout, but it's a hand up.
Yeah, high five, man.
Exactly. It's a hand up, which is very different if you think about it. It's not hand out. Hand out is okay, weakness. But hand up is okay, I'm here. I'm giving you an opportunity to step up the game. However, I'm not going to do it for you. It's going to be you. You're going to
I
do
think
it.
that's a mistake too, right? Like, dangling carrots and stuff like that. Like, I've done that. I've done like quote unquote stupid shit. Like, like I've done it, right? Right? You
And
don't get
it's good because you have done it, because now it's in your experience. It's not something that you have learned from somebody you don't know about. Dangling carrots, you know that it is not worth it, because all that happens is you're breeding weakness in people, in the person, and it works for some, but I think it's very short lived. That's just my experience.
it's
It's
short
very
lived.
short.
You don't get a proper
And
return on your.
you got to keep doing it, repetition, repetition. You got to keep doing it, keep doing
Yeah,
it, keep doing it, which is not helping the other person because they are not becoming activated. They are not learning. It's only when you show them something, dangle it in front of them, then they'll move. Otherwise, they are a hound dog sitting on the nail. Ow! That's
yeah,
all is happening. Pain is there, but they're not moving.
of course. And you know what? Them too, but you're not even getting a proper return on your investment. Like, think about it.
Exactly.
You might get a short-lived, instant gratification little jolt from them, and that's it, all you're gonna get. I've done,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? You
Mhm.
know, so that's something that I've learned. I've learned a lot in this in sales, and honestly, like there's one mentor. There's two mentors that I have that I really tune into and dial into. One being Grant Cardone, the other one being Kevin Trudeau.
Mhm.
Right, I really dial into these guys. Grant Cardone mostly for the sales. Kevin Trudeau mostly for the internal.
Mhm.
Right, the thinking, the positive thinking. I call them both uncle. You
They
know,
are.
Uncle Kevin, Uncle G, they both yell. I
Yeah.
was listening to an audio. I was telling this to Vinny the other day. Today actually. There's a member development series, and it
Yeah.
was I can't remember the name of the member development series, but this guy was just yelling. He was like, and I was actually getting fired up
Fired up.
because, like, and this is where I love the way I grew up because my dad used to yell. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. Something has to change now.
Used to yell. I'm like, let's go. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
This is what I mean, not being raised as soft serve. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've ever had soft serve ice cream, it's too soft, right? So yeah, like those are the two guys I go to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I listen to the audios every day. I read books the recommended books that these guys give me every day. I get around the right people. Who do you listen to? There's something that's very profound in my mind, and making sure that you're always willing to have open dialogue with people and really willing to open to opinions. But again,
Yeah.
opinion is just an opinion,
Yeah.
right? And everybody's allowed to have them,
Yeah.
right? Understand that everybody's allowed to have an opinion, and you don't have to take their opinion. You should listen.
Mm.
You're going to learn something great or something probably stupid. Who knows, right?
Mm.
But be open to opinions. It's going to help you learn as an individual. And how you know you're learning is if somebody has an opinion and it doesn't make you feel the best, or if it makes you feel great. That's going to give you the opportunity to learn something.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you said that it didn't feel right to you. It didn't feel the best to you. That's the distinction here, because you don't have to be blind when somebody said to you and they have what you want. I understand, but you still use the discernment muscle. You still use that. You still, because at the end of the day, you feeling right from that information, it has to be, it is important. Otherwise, you won't apply it. It just, my experience has been, even if you'll apply it, you won't feel good, and then you'll give up. You'll give up some or the other way. You will on it. That's just my understanding. And since you have been mentioning, I just want to share here that we've talked about Global Information Network a couple of times now. And if you really want to change your life, if you want to manifest your dreams and really change altogether, not only in terms of financial, but in terms of relationships, in terms of anything related to fitness, anything in your life, whatever your dreams are, I would suggest you to go to globalinformationnetwork.com, or you go to yourwishesyourcommand.com and see what we have. See, if you consider becoming part of the club, the membership is now open. We are accepting applications. So if you think you want to be around people, because one of the things that Aristotle Onassis said when he went dead broke, he said, if I am dead broke again, the one thing that I'll do is I will work the whole month and then save up my money to be in a restaurant where other successful people come.
I remember that.
So you'll see that, you know that, right, Danny? So that's one of the things that you'll find common with all super successful people. They make sure that they stay around other successful people. Does not matter what your life situation or circumstances right now, but it's all upon you, because you can make that decision to change. And one of the decisions should be that you stay around people who are winners. So again, consider, if you want to change your life, consider going to globalinformationnetwork.com or yourwishesyourcommand.com. I have the physical copy of it. I know Danny has it too, but listening to these CDs have changed our lives. And we highly recommend consider listening to them. So you can go to yourwishesyourcommand.com or globalinformationnetwork.com. Well, Danny, this was amazing. It is so much fun to always talk to you, brother. And I love the fact that we do get candid. I love the fact that we do get inside. We go deep on the topics. There's so many things that I've learned from you today. So I appreciate your time, Danny. And there's so much more you can dig in, and because I know you're a Pandora box and stuff can come out, but
Yeah, for sure, 100%. You know, I'm kind of like feeling it. I'm like, we're stopping. Why?
Yeah, there's so much more, and I would love to have you back again on the show. And whenever you feel that you have some time, and we can do that. And then we can dive more into some of the things that have changed in terms of fitness. How has fitness helped you? Because that's a part of your life. I know that you do every single morning. You're going to the gym and you're making sure that you eat right. So many things can be discussed. So we can keep it for the next time. Because like I said, Pandora box, you are a Pandora box, and it's just I would rather keep some more nuggets come out for the future show. Yeah.
Thank you for helping to bring out the best in me, man. I love this conversation. It was great. One thing I want to say, I love that hat. It seems
Thank you.
To the side. That's proper.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it this way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the red. Yeah.
It was good. It was really good. I like it.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Take care. I will see you soon.
Yes. Love you, brother.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Love you too, bro.
Okay,
Take care.
man.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.